How many wheels is too many wheels on a car? It's a question I didn't really think I'd be asking myself today. But thanks to a plucky little car manufacturer somewhere up in the Malvern Hills, here we are. Hello and welcome to the Morgan F Series, or F2. Yes, today you join me with a rather interesting slice of British automotive history. It's a 1937 Morgan F2 or F Series three-wheeler. We're going to have a proper look around this thing, all three wheels, then we're going to take it out on the road, look at the inside, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I think of this rather interesting little model. So let's crack on. Outside of Reliant dealerships and mining towns in the north of England, you could be forgiven for thinking that anything other than four wheels on your car is a little bit odd. However, in the early 20th century, there was a plucky little pioneering car and automobile engineer who decided that he was going to make a series of small pieces of personal transportation and that logically, they would only need to have three wheels. Now that plucky little engineer would go on to develop a rather splendid and rather British car company we all know and love, Morgan. But back in the early days, in 1909, he was developing something he called the runabout, a small single-seater personal piece of transport that had three wheels, two at the front, one at the back. The Morgan runabouts, as they would come to be known, were introduced at the 1910 Geneva Motor Show, and surprisingly, they weren't laughed out of the venue. No, people could actually see this might be a good idea, this might work. They were actually surprisingly popular. However, this didn't really transpire into order numbers because they only had one seat. Its single-seater car really did limit its usability, and so in the years that followed, more creature comforts would be added, along with a second and then inevitably a third and fourth seat. Now, the runabout really did set Morgan on the track to success, and for the best part of half a decade, they would use the three-wheel formula to make a variety of different cars, ranging from little runabouts, passenger cars, sports cars, all the way up to delivery vehicles. It was quite impressive. There was a three-wheeled Morgan for pretty much any purpose you could think of, one might argue. It was the 1930s when arguably the most revolutionary and pivotal three-wheeled Morgan would be introduced, the F series of cars. This was really something for Morgan. It was a massive departure from what they'd normally been doing. It utilised a pressed steel chassis and had a car-derived water-cooled engine in the front. This was really unheard territory for Morgan, but it worked well and the F-Series was quite a success. It was first introduced in the early 1930s as the F4, a four-seater sports car, before in 1935 this was introduced, the F2 two-seater variant. The F2 was available as a single-door, two-seater sports car, pretty much as you see it today, albeit from a few different modifications. Obviously, this auxiliary dog-carrying cooking device on the back wouldn't have been here, nor would the tow bar, and there are a few other mechanical gubbins that make this a little bit more usable in the modern era, but we'll get more onto those in a little bit. The F2 would stick around for a few years before the F Super would be introduced, which was a slightly more revitalised, slightly more lavish variant of the three-wheeled two-seater sports car we've all come to know and love. Inside was rewardingly simple, a few different gauges here and there, a tri-spoke steering wheel, and a nice little bench seat for you and one friend. This particular example, as I said, has been modified to be a little bit more usable, so rather than the typical 6-volt electric, this runs 12-volt electrics. We also have a voltmeter here to see how we're running, and a few other odds and ends. Now, under the bonnet was a bit of a departure for Morgan. As I said earlier, water-cooled car-derived engine wasn't really his thing. No, motorcycle engines were more what you would find in a three-wheeled Morgan prior to this. But what we have effectively is a Ford Y-Series engine in one form or another, available in two different states of tune, either an 8 horsepower or a blisteringly high 10 horsepower, either 933cc or 1172cc. This particular example has been fitted with the latter, which could comfortably send it to around 65 miles an hour. It's paired with a 3-speed dogleg style manual transmission with reverse where you would expect first to be.
The experience of, I can't really compare it to anything else because there isn't really anything else like it. It's not like a Reliant Robin or a Rialto. The setup's completely reversed. It's very much a unique experience. I must say, the ride is absolutely shocking. That wheel being in the middle means even if you can get your front wheels around a bump, lump or imperfection in the road, the rear picks it up straight away and flicks you right up. I had to slow down a real lot to get over some speed bumps back there. It feels so odd and unnatural. I must also apologise if this is coming off as a bit of a shouty portion of the video. My microphones have died, but I was so eager to get out and see what this is like on the road. Performance I can only really describe as a little bit lackluster. Even with an upgraded engine, this thing is hideously slow, but it doesn't exactly feel safe, solid or secure, so I don't think I'd want to be pushing it much more than I am right now. I was quite surprised to report that the steering is awfully light. It's a very manoeuvrable thing this, but I suppose tiny skinny little wheels and only 3 of them to move around. Perhaps I shouldn't be so surprised after all. Acceleration at the lower end is surprisingly okay. I've got a dogleg style manual gearbox in this one. It's pretty easy to use. It's fairly rudimentary. There's a lovely little engine note, but it's all sort of really null and void. All you can think about is, I'm in a 3-wheeled car with no roof. Road holding is on the interesting side. If you push it into a corner too much, it starts to feel a little bit loose and a little bit sketchy. You've only got one wheel back there doing an awful lot of work to keep this thing stable, and it certainly has its work cut out. It's quite the experience. I really can't compare it to anything else, but I am having so much fun.
So then, the Mighty Morgan F2, the F-series of 3-wheel cars. What do I think? Well, I feel like you're expecting me to say it's terrible, I hate it, it's rattly, it's unstable, and I just don't enjoy it. And while some of that is true, it's certainly on the unstable side. It's a weird old thing to drive until you get used to it. I've actually grown quite fond of it, and I think it's a fun little car. It certainly feels a lot more stable than a Reliant Robin, thanks to the 2 wheels at the front and the 1 at the back. It definitely takes some getting used to, especially with that 3-speed non-synchro manual gearbox. But once you get into the rhythm of things, it's very manageable and very drivable. I wouldn't push it too hard in the corners, but it is a car from 1937. Should you really be doing that anyway? It looks the part, it turns heads, and the chances are if you park it up at a car show, you're not going to find yourself another one. So if you want a really almost unique classic with a lovely level of charm, get yourself a Morgan 3-wheeler. Gets a thumbs up from me after all. Thank you very much for watching the video review on our lovely little 3-wheeled oddity. I do hope you've enjoyed, and if you like this sort of thing, please check out our other video reviews.